Dun da da. Dun da 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 da. Guess what? Da 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 da. Wesam's happy. Dun dun da 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 da. Dun da 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 da. You know why? Because we finally got a drink sponsor that Wesam loves. It's Guac Yerba Mate. If you guys know me and you listen to the show, or you just know me in person, or you've seen me on the show and my behind the scenes stuff, I'm always drinking yerba mate, and I do love the Guac brand, and it's so good. And I just wanted to thank them for bringing us some drinks for the show. Like, I appreciate you guys, seriously. That's very kind of you, and I'll be drinking this every show, guys.
You weren't before?
Well, no, Michael. Sometimes I ran out because I drank too much, so I would have to bring a lesser drink here. Sir, calling me out. You've changed. You've changed. Gosh.
We're all just doing our best.
Okay. You know what? That's not true, actually. We're not all doing our best. As you'll learn when you listen to this episode, got a little triggered by our guest, and all in good fun, of course. But yeah, Peyton, I don't think that's a fact because we're not all doing our best. Everyone? See what I mean? I'm right. Michael, I dare you disagree with me. I dare you. Do you disagree with me?
I do not.
There you go. There you go. There's a cop that just went by there. Just remembered my jaywalking ticket. Oh, boy. You know what? I'm going to keep things in perspective. What I'm thankful for clean water. That's a great segue. Very subtle.
Very subtle.
Very subtle for our guest today. Our amazing guest. He's basically an angel. An angel. We have a literal angel on the show today. His name is Seth Maxwell, and he is the founder and CEO of the Thirst Project. The Thirst Project is a nonprofit organization that brings clean and sustainable water and water projects to people all over the world. They've raised almost $10 million in 10 years. And by 26-ish, the kingdom of Eswatini will have everybody there will have clean, sustainable water, an entire country. That is one of their goals. I think that is, what? What? Who are you? Seth Maxwell? You're an angel. Oh, you're an angel. Okay, cool. Great. We got an angel on the show today. We're breaking into the metaphysical. So, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the great Seth Maxwell. No.
You are a tease.
Big time.
Yeah.
I've been told that. All right. We'll try this again.
Sweet.
Take two. Seth, how are you doing, man?
I'm better the second time around.
We were just talking about the origins of the Thirst Project, and technically you guys incorporated in 2009.
Yeah.
And this will be your 10-year anniversary.
Yeah, this is it. We're like deep in the midst of all the crazy 10th anniversary planning and events, and so literally next week is World Water Day, and so there's just literally 5 things happening all at once. So everything's a little bit hectic, but really, really good.
For our listeners, I'd like for them to have a brief origin story of the Thirst Project and why you even started it.
Yeah. So when I was 19, I was out here in LA like so many other people working in entertainment and pursuing that while also getting my degree in theater, right? Mm-hmm. And so I had a friend who I had met through other mutual friends who was a photojournalist for Nat Geo, which is basically every photojournalist's dream. And she got this crazy assignment where she had to go live for a year and a half that was broken up into 6-week blocks at a time in different communities across Southeast Asia, Sub-Saharan Africa, South and Central America. And while she was there, her job was to document and report on the progress on the UN's Millennial Development Goals. And so she wasn't just like flying in and out of places really quickly. She was living for like 6 weeks at a time in each community. So she built these pretty authentic, like intimate relationships with people. And so when she came back, we got together to catch up over coffee. And I sat across from her, sort of stunned for about 45 minutes as I watched, just looking at picture after picture after picture of 3 and 4 and 5-year-olds, in many cases on the side of the road, drinking water out of mud puddles, rivers, swamps, stuff that looked like toilet water. But it wasn't just, like poverty porn, like, oh, look at this sad kid. It was, no, this is Sophie. She's 7. We hung out for 6 weeks. We played Barbies. I watched her drink from this water source that was shared with animals. I watched her die of cholera. Crazy stuff. And so,
Whoa.
yeah.
Just to kind of stop you there for a second, how thirsty do you have to be to start drinking that water, right?
I mean, at a certain point, it's not even just, oh, I'm really thirsty. There's literally no option. So in the communities that we're working in the communities where she was showing me, where she had been, this was surface water sources, open water, rivers, dams, ponds, streams. This was all that people had access to. And so, if you're literally faced with a daily choice of, do I drink, cook, wash, clean with anything or not, you use what's available. And so this is, in many cases, it's water sources that are shared with animals that'll both drink and defecate in the same water sources that people drink from. Again, not because, oh my gosh, the local well's dried up or my taps stopped working and I'm so thirsty. It's just, this is all there is.
Wow.
This is all you know. And so I left that sort of catch up with my whole worldview just kind of destroyed, and went home and started Googling, trying to find out, something I could get involved with or plug into that might make some kind of impact, and just kind of kept coming up empty. And so I kind of forgot about it. But over the course of the next 2 days, back to back, I ended up having multiple conversations with different people who coincidentally, it seemed like worked in different spaces of either charitable initiatives or international development initiatives, or I met a hydrologist, and he was the first person who told me that I could build a water well pretty much anywhere in the world for about $10,000 to $12,000. It would give an entire community of people, a whole village of people, safe, clean water indefinitely. And I thought, well, all right, I'm 19 at that point. I don't have 12 grand lying around, but I live in Los Angeles. How many people waste $12,000 on the most ridiculous things ever?
Right.
And so I did the only thing I know how to do, which is talk. And I started talking to anybody I could get my hands on, saying, did you know this is happening? And at that point, 10 years ago, 1.1 billion people just didn't have access to basic, safe, clean drinking water. And so we've been at it for a decade, but now, fast forward.
Say that number again.
Yeah, it used to be, it's not today, but 1.1 billion people didn't have access to basic, safe, clean drinking water. And today, if you fast forward a decade, it's 663 million. So,
oh my gosh.
Yeah, the number of people who are without safe water globally has been cut in half, while the global population has risen. So this isn't an issue that we're hoping we find a cure to. We're not really sure how to address. Like, we know how to see the end of this issue, and we will, not just in our lifetimes, in the next 15, 20 years maybe.
I think that's so hard for a lot of people to wrap their head around. Like 10 years ago.
Yeah.
Basically one in 7 people,
Yeah.
I don't have clean water.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
my life is drastically affected by that in a negative way.
Absolutely.
One of the biggest things that the first year when I went to the first gala I went to for the Thirst Project, one of the things that struck me that I learned is like, because they don't have water, they can't get an education. And I was like, wait, like, what do you mean? Like, how does that affect that?
Yeah, for me, going back to your earlier conversation about the origin story, it's like the reason I initially felt so compelled to start this was, at the time, I didn't realize how exponential the impact of water or lack of safe water is on life. So, if you're passionate about pretty much any other philanthropic initiative, if you're passionate about any health initiative, if you're passionate about education, if you're passionate about hunger, You care about water because you can't build a school and attempt to outfit it with teachers and bring kids in to get an education if quite literally all of your kids are out sick daily with basic, easily preventable waterborne diseases. You can't outfit schools with teachers and try to fill them with kids if all your kids are out walking on average 3.5 miles each way, 6 to 8 hours a day. And so if you care about education, you care about water. You can't build agricultural development initiatives to try to combat, food insecurity and hunger initiatives without water. And so if you care about food and you care about hunger, you care about water.
That's a connection that a lot of people don't understand, and I'm so glad you said that on the air because that's what really made me want to get more involved and learn more about this, because for me education is so important, especially for young children and all over the world, not just here in America, because if you don't really have a good start, I mean, the chances of you having a good life after that is dramatically decreased.
Absolutely.
Especially in education, a basic education.
Absolutely. Yeah, 100%.
You're 19 when all of this happened. And so in my mind, I'm trying to think like, what was I like at 19? And you know what I mean? And it's one thing to go, man, this deeply affects me. It shows that you have empathy and you have a good heart to you. And then it's another thing to actually have the conviction to manifest something to help people. Mm-hmm. Where did that come from?
I think if I'm totally transparent, I didn't wake up one day I think I'm going to start a charity today. It was sort of something that initially, at least, we fell into, right? So it was sort of like one thing begot another thing. And so when you're 19 and you're passionate about something, what do? You start a club. And so we started a club called the Thirst Project on our college campus aimed at raising awareness of the water crisis, just like in and around our school and around town here. And so one of the first things we did as an organization was we literally just went, pitched in all the money we had between us, which amongst my 7 closest college friends was $70. We went to our local grocery store, bought a bunch of bottled water, and we literally went out on Hollywood Boulevard and just started giving away free water to people to get people to stop and say, well, why are you doing this? And the whole goal was to get people to talk to us and say, did you know that 1.1 billion people at that point didn't have access to safe, clean drinking water? And so we talked to over about 1,000 people in the course of a day. We spent the entire day on Hollywood Boulevard, and everybody started giving back for the water they took. So we turned $70 into about $1,700, which we gave to a different water organization. Again, we were just a club at a school, and we kind of thought that was it. We felt good, we'd raised some money, but there were 2 people that met us that day that exchanged info with us and said, hey, would you guys come to our school, basically tell our friends what you told us? We want to see if we can do something similar. And so we said, okay, got my friends' photos, went, spoke at these 2 schools, kind of, again, forgot about it until about a month after that, they called us back and said, hey, we did fundraisers, and sent checks to us that amounted to over $12,000. And they were made out to the Thirst Project. But, we didn't have a bank account. There wasn't, there was no, we couldn't deposit that. But we realized, man, if this is what 2 schools could do, what if there were 100 schools? What if there were 1,000 schools? Yeah. And we realized there was tremendous untapped potential in people our age around this issue. And so we created the organization. And, if you fast forward today, a decade later, our flagship initiative is we have a school tour where we send young speakers across the country to go speak in assemblies at high schools and colleges to educate students about the water crisis, and those students take action. They do dances, walks, video game tournaments.
One of my favorite things that you guys did was when students would carry around dirty water in water bottles, filthy water. So people would ask them, hey, what is in there?
Yeah.
And then I thought that was absolutely genius way to get people talking about, because then you're looking at it, you're like, whoa, I would never drink that water, and there are people drinking that.
Yeah,
that creates such an impact. That's so clever, man.
If you didn't know, we did a campaign called the Dirty Little Secret campaign, and it was that where we gave students a recipe for water bottles that would look like dirty water. We made sure it was all safe. It was flour and stuff that was safe to drink. But in case anyone actually did drink it. But
I love how you're taking care of so we don't get sued, guys.
but no, it was an awareness campaign, and it was super powerful because you sit down at a dinner table, you sit down at your desk, the gym, and someone's like, "What the heck are you doing with this nasty bottle of water?" And it sparks conversation. So
You guys have been so clever. I think we're going off on the live. See you guys. Make sure you tune in Thursday at 10, not 10/9 Central. That's my show. Thursday at 3 p.m. Pacific, 6 p.m. Eastern time. I have so many times I have
That
to
too,
memorize.
though.
Tune into that too, please,
Tune
guys.
into that.
The Thirst Project has been. I've been so impressed by the way you guys have done all these vivid campaigns that engage people, and it's not like the same thing every year where it's your typical like NPR fundraiser. Hey guys, we need some money. We'll give you like
Sure.
a bag. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's incredible. So you must have an incredible team around you that helps out with that, man.
Absolutely. No, I mean, so we're super lean, and some of the things, I guess we haven't really painted a super full picture for everybody who's listening, but I mean, the reason we exist, obviously, is that today there are about 663 million people who don't have safe water. And again, besides just being a big number, what it practically means is that in developing communities around the world, women or kids will walk from their homesteads to whatever standing water sources are available. So it's often rivers, ponds, swamps, but drinking from these open sources causes people to get really easily preventable waterborne diseases. I mean, most people don't realize that diarrhea and dysentery actually kill more kids every year than HIV and malaria combined.
Wow.
So
wait, it's more than malaria?
More than malaria and HIV combined.
Dysentery.
Diarrhea,
Diarrhea,
dysentery, and waterborne diseases like them.
Dude.
Yeah.
I did not know that.
Yeah, see? So we build freshwater wells, pit latrines, hand washing stations in these communities to give people clean water, which isn't super unique. There are lots of great water organizations. But to your question and point, what is super unique is that while we're definitely not the oldest, we're certainly the largest youth water organization. And so, I mean, our team is really incredible. We work this year alone, our school tour will go, there are 4 teams of 2 speakers each. They'll go to over 520 campuses, well over 100,000 students who will in assemblies learn about the water crisis. And then this year do things like dances, walks, video game tournaments, all to raise awareness and funds to build water projects. And we commit to those students to give literally 100% of all the money they raise directly to build water projects. So we've got a pretty incredible group of donors led by our board who give crazy generously, knowing that none of their money will go to build water projects. All their money goes to pay for the stuff that nobody wants to pay for, like office space and salaries and Post-its. So we can tell students that all of their money and public donors, all their money goes to build water projects. But yeah, I mean, our team is really lean because of that. You know, we were only here in LA 9 full-time staffers, internationally 3 full-time staffers who are from those countries in those communities that we're actually actively building water projects in. And, you know, they act as kind of the nucleus between Thirst Project in the U.S., the individual drilling companies we hire, and the communities we build projects in. But our school team here in the U.S. is our largest domestic full-time team, which is a team of 4. But I mean, they're full-timers. Like, that's what they do. They lead our school tour. They lead our student activation initiatives. And our marketing team is 2 people. They're our second biggest team. And, you know, they come up with really scrappy, innovative ideas to figure out how to, you know, I mean, we're kind of in the business of making a lot out of a little. And so whether it's finding innovative ways to get people to talk about issues that we need them to talk about, getting people to rally and give, that's definitely a huge credit to them. They are super innovative and generous and selfless, and I get to work with super cool people. So.
I could tell, man. The few times I visited the office, I mean, everybody in there is just so passionate about what they do, and you could tell that they're not in it for the money. You know what I mean?
Definitely not that.
And that's just, it's just so amazing.
We have great healthcare, though. No.
For our listeners, I know you briefly described this. They're wells that you build out there. That way it's sustainable water. So you're not just sending out water bottles to people. No. And are there other things than wells that you build? Because you said water projects, correct?
Yeah. So it's easier, I guess, for most people when we're kind of throwing out sound bites to just like latch onto like something like a well, right? But really, if you want to like drill down into the nitty gritty, pun intended, is that they're called WASH programs. So it's water and sanitation and hygiene. So the water component is certainly like the largest component of that program, but water is really only effective in reducing disease when paired with sanitation and hygiene. So we always will build some type of water project, whether it's a hand pump borehole well, whether it's protecting a naturally existing spring that's on site that we found, and then piping water from that spring to reservoir tanks that sort of then pipe to other access points in the community, whether it's biosand filters or rainwater catchment. It's usually a combination of all of those things, but I would say probably 85% of the projects we build are hand pump borehole wells, where we will drill down into naturally existing water tables to tap into them and then draw up safe water for those people. So yeah, we would never, I wouldn't say never. The only time we would ever do like a water bottle type program in a community or something like that would be if it was a short-term solution, predominantly in a disaster relief situation. So like if,
Gotcha.
you know, like when, for example, the earthquake initially struck Haiti, we responded in the first 72 hours by sending about 1 million liters of water down to be distributed, but in the form of what are called pure packets, which are basically these like 2-ounce packets of powder that you can pour into up to 20 liters of contaminated water. I mean, they can be, you know, E. coli, cholera, all kind of crazy stuff, and it literally will make the water safe, potable, and also the way that the ions of that powder are charged is such that they attract themselves back to each other, so it'll collect like sediment, form these little dirt clumps that fall to the bottom. You can just pour your water through a cloth to strain it and drink it. But that's not very sustainable because like once you use a 2-ounce packet of powder, you need another one. And so our preferred methods for building water projects for certainly like long-term solutions in communities are more sustainable projects, whether it's a combination of hand pump borehole wells or spring protection systems, rainwater harvesting, some kind of combination like that.
Yeah. The water, like for instance, let's take the kingdom of Eswatini, right?
Eswatini.
Eswatini, and it was formerly known as Swaziland, correct?
Yeah, the artist formerly known as.
Whenever you come across, let's say, a town or a village that needs clean water, do you take into account like how much rainwater actually falls in there to make sure that like the spring isn't depleted and stuff like that? Is that all part of the process?
It's a pretty lengthy process. Again, when we're like doing shows or sort of like creating marketing pieces, it's hard to communicate in like quick, digestible sound bites. But the whole process from start to finish, from the time that we identify a community in need to the time that that project is complete, passed over to that community, and we're reporting back to the donors who funded it, that whole process is usually about a year, maybe 12 to 14 months.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And in that process as well, like the first steps are first collecting data from that community. So it's, you know, our local staffers on the ground will go out. They have what's called a needs assessment that they'll carry out in that community. And it collects basic data, population size, GPS coordinates, ratio of men to women to children, the distance people are currently walking to fetch water, the type of water source that they're collecting from, waterborne disease rates and their prevalencies, all that kind of stuff, right? And then it's first and foremost a conversation. So it's never a situation where we would go into a community and say, hey, here's who we are, we're going to build a well here. It's like, hey, here's who we are, here's what we do you want this? If so, here's what we have to do together in order to play together. And so from the very beginning, the community knows there's certain expectations on our part that they're going to contribute sweat equity to the project. They're going to be involved in electing a water committee that's made of half women, half men, who are going to be trained on maintenance, repair, sanitation, hygiene. You know, it's really not a question of if, it's a question of like when hand pumps need replacing or when there's a crack in an apron or a sanitary seal that needs repair. So it's super critical for communities to be engaged in both the construction process and also trained on repairs as well.
That's so smart for you to do. That way it's like you didn't just go, okay, we did our job, bye. Whatever happens, happens. You actually give them like their own accountability and their own like responsibility to make sure that this thing keeps going. I think that's amazing, man.
Probably the least sexy statistic in our space is that 64% of water projects implemented by foreign nonprofits just on the continent of Africa, not counting Southeast Asia, South or Central America, fail in the first year, which is like devastating. I mean, investing all this time and money for a project that'll
64%.
Now, if you pull back the curtain on those so-called failures, more than 90% of those are what we would consider to be really either inexpensive or really easy fixes to get back online, back operable. But the problem is, what you were saying is like a lot of times it's really well-intentioned, you know, good people who want to build as many projects as fast as possible. And to be totally transparent, a lot of the things that make a project more sustainable don't necessarily look good on paper to a donor. And the two things most donors don't like seeing are projects that take a long time and projects that cost a lot more money. And so if you're carrying out, say, for example, a hydrology or a groundwater survey to let you know where the best location in that community to drill is because it's going to access the largest aquifer that's adequate to meet the needs of the people, that's an extra couple $1,000s. It's going to take an extra month or so to build your project, neither of which looks super great to a donor, and neither of which are easy to see in the actual finished product. So it's easy to cut that process out, right? But the problem is if you overdraft an aquifer before it has time to replenish during a rainy season, then project will sit unused. And so, it's one of those things where we're pretty unapologetic about how long it takes us to build projects and how much it costs us to build projects. But we also are really proud of the fact that we've had in our life of almost 2,000 projects as an organization, 10 total failures.
Wow.
So, yeah, not 10%, like 10.
10.
Yeah.
That's incredible, man.
So,
Question for you, because I love learning these details, and that's one of the reasons I brought you on here, because people can go online and they can read what you guys have and everything, and I've heard you speak a few times about it, but these are the questions I've always had, and I think it's important for people to know all these specific details, because that's stuff I didn't even know, man.
yeah.
The water that gets pumped out a lot of times, do they have to boil it, or is it they can just drink it?
No, so I mean, we're drilling in most cases. Most cases we hit water usually pretty shallow, 70 feet, 80 feet. However, that's not where we stop. So we know water tables typically drop during dry seasons, and so we're always going to usually drill an extra 50 to 60 feet below wherever we hit water. On average, I'd say, particularly in Eswatini, our wells land somewhere in the 150 to almost 200-foot range. And so when you're drilling that deep, I mean, we're tapping into safe, protected water that in most of the cases in the places where we're building, it isn't like an urban or peri-urban area where you're worried about, is there a local mine that's dumping into watersheds? Is there a local, factory that's contaminated in local watersheds? This is water that's practically untouched and is super safe. Now, that said, even still, at the last stages of construction, one of the things we also do that doesn't necessarily you can't see it super easily on a water project when it's finished, but we do what's called a pump test followed by a water quality test. And so we'll ship samples to a local lab to make sure that it's safe for human consumption. There's not, too much fluoride or anything like that. If there is, almost always it's something that we can put a filter on for that particular project. But yeah.
What drew you to the kingdom of Eswatini, right?
Eswatini.
Watini. Eswatini.
Yeah.
Oh, there's a T in there. That threw me off.
Yeah.
Eswatini.
Yeah.
That's easy.
I know. Well, and the funny thing is, it literally directly translates to Swaziland in Siswati.
Okay. All right.
So it's sort of a FU to colonialism.
Okay, I dig that.
Yeah. So
Respect.
Yeah.
Hashtag respect.
Yes.
Hashtag retweet.
When you're a king, you could be like, I'm just gonna change the country's name. It's fine.
But yeah, what drew you specifically? Because a little fact for our listeners: the kingdom of Eswatini has the highest density of, I don't know if it currently does, but of people with HIV or AIDS. Correct?
In the world, yeah.
In the world.
So Swaziland or Eswatini internationally for quite a long time has been known, unfortunately, for having the single highest density HIV/AIDS population of any country in the world. No, it's the progress that's been made in the last 10 years, not just on the water crisis in the world, but also specifically this health issue in Eswatini is incredible. I mean, when we started, 10 years ago, it used to be people were talking in the neighborhood of 28% of the total population, 29%, and it was even more drastic amongst the middle-aged sector of the community. So if you're talking about somebody who was between the ages of 18 to 30, it was a 1 in 2. So over 50% of the people in our age group, and then about 1 in 4 of the total population. That has decreased dramatically in 10 years, and it has been decreasing even before then, but we're starting to finally see the turn of the tide. But it's still, yes, I mean, we're still looking at, I think it's 24 or 22% of the population now today total, and much, much less in the middle subset as well. But the relationship between water and HIV is important because even in rural communities, if people have access to medical treatment or antiretrovirals, but still go drink from contaminated water sources, people's immune systems are already so compromised that the diseases in the water people drink will often kill them faster than their HIV will. So for us, what was attractive was, number one, it's a small country. There's only about 1.4 million people, and today we're down to about 280, maybe 300,000 people without safe water. And so while 300,000 people is a lot of people to give water to, in the scope of a country, it's really not that much. And so when we started 6 years ago working there, the question was, could we do what nobody's ever done before and give an entire country safe water? But also the ability to make a positive impact on two issues at once was really attractive.
Absolutely. And I don't know if this stat is still correct, but around 2022 is when you plan.
Yeah, so
you're working with the government.
Yeah, so we're working with the government has sort of a few different initiatives.
Sorry, the government of Eswatini.
Yeah. So the government of Eswatini has basically what's called the Ministry of Natural Resources, which is the branch of government that houses the Department of Water Affairs, which is the branch of the government that houses the Rural Water Services Department, which is who we work with the most. And so we've been working with them for the past 6 years, have a pretty solid relationship, and have shared data, information, but their goal is to reach 100% coverage within the country by 2022. To be totally transparent, I don't know that goal's going to hit. My guess is it's probably going to be more realistically like 2025, 2026.
How dare you?
But it's a good goal.
It's an amazing goal, man. We're going to take a quick break.
Yeah.
And then we'll be right back to talk some more, man.
Love it.
This is a blast. Awesome. We're back.
Yeah.
You just told me the gala has been pushed till September.
The
So annual gala.
Pushed in the sense that our audience is kind of conditioned to it being in the spring, but we decided to do it in the fall this year. So September 28th.
And people can buy tickets to this? Tables?
Please do.
Yeah. And this is an amazing event where you basically talk about all the wonderful things that you've done in the past year, the amazing service that students and other people have given to the Thirst Project.
Yeah. It's an award show, really. I mean, it's at the Beverly Hilton.
Yeah.
It's on the same stage as the Golden Globes. But we recognize and honor the celebrities who've used their platform to either raise the profile of our cause the most, raise the most money, the students and young people who have, again, galvanized their communities, recruited tons of volunteers, raised the most money. And so there's just different, honors that are given different people who have really made our work possible in the past year. But it also is very clearly a fundraiser. So we auction off wells, which may not sound super sexy, but
no, it's so much fun to watch, dude.
It's really cool.
Like, again, if obviously not everybody can just drop $12,000 or whatever, but you got $100, you got $80, you got whatever you can donate. But it's so much fun watching that part of it because you're just like, oh man, who's gonna? And then you say, I'll buy a well, and you're like, whoa.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah. And it's nice.
It's good.
There's usually a musical artist as well.
Yeah.
It's a great night, and it actually makes you really appreciative of what you have. I'm trying to think if this was the last time I was there or the second to last time. You guys had the VR sets.
Yeah.
Dude.
Yeah.
That was bonkers. I've never put one of those on, first of all. What are they, the Samsung VR thing?
Yeah, the Oculus.
Have you guys ever tried them?
The Oculus Rift?
Yeah.
I haven't.
Dude, I felt like I was a spirit.
Yeah,
Do you know what I mean? Because you put them on, and you're looking, and it looks like you're there somewhere in Africa.
Yeah,
or
so we shot a short film. It was like 4 minutes long in a community in Swaziland where basically this community went from not having safe water to actually watch the well get drilled and then the water pumped for the first time from the well. And so it's pretty cool because, I mean, literally it's any time throughout the piece you can kind of look up, down, left, right in a direction. And it's like, wow, for those people who can't get on a plane and go to Swaziland or somewhere that we're working, it definitely is a pretty incredible experience.
Oh, it was so vivid. And the crazy thing is, because it looks so real, and then you're looking down expecting to see your body and your legs. It's not there.
No, it's gone.
It's not there. You're like, oh, I'm dead. A spirit.
Yeah.
A spirit in Eswatini right now. I loved it. There was also almost how would you describe it? A live art performance, but like there were people there like carrying the actual this is something bonkers I don't think we've touched upon. people would carry these oil gallon jerry cans. That's it.
Yeah, they're
to
basically
get water.
like the yellow or diesel version of our red gas can.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they would travel miles.
Yeah, so most people in developing countries walk on average 3.75 miles a day to whatever their local water sources are to collect water back and forth, right? And most people will use what are called jerry cans, which are basically, like I said, the yellow or diesel version of our red gas can. But when you fill a 5-gallon jerry can full of water, it weighs 44 pounds. And the average distance that people are walking with that is 3.5 miles. So you're talking about, if you're carrying 2 of those, 88 pounds of water hauled by an 8, 9, 10-year-old over a 3 to 4 mile distance every day. Like, that's crazy.
People should never complain in this city.
Yeah, it's...
I'm bad at it too, but like when you hear that and you actually really think about that, like an 8 to 10-year-old child carrying these things, it's heartbreaking, man.
Yeah. I mean, it's interesting for me. My tolerance for like normal daily life complaints is I have to really like work hard to empathize with like friends or family here when it's like, oh, I had a bad day, like this thing. I'm like, yeah, it's a bad day. Like,
well,
like,
I'm glad you weren't around for my jaywalking ticket then.
You know, did you jaywalk?
Yes, sir, I did. I'm guilty of jaywalking. It was the way the ticket was issued I had a problem with, sir.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
No, you're absolutely right. And it's hard though. You know, you live in your world, and then it's hard to sometimes think about what's goes on outside your world. That's why I think people like you are so important. And it just, I don't know, broadens your perspective on life, to simply put. And you're helping other people, and you started this organization with your team and everything. It's just, I don't know, man. The more I'm getting older, the more I realize a lot of the stuff I complain about. I try to be good, though. I feel like, for the most part, I'm a pretty positive person. But sometimes the little things get to me. It's other people. That's what it is.
Yeah.
Not like nature circumstances,
Sure.
if that makes any sense to you at all.
Humanity is better in theory.
For instance, if my ceiling fan broke, I wouldn't care. It's when a cop issuing a jaywalking ticket to me gives me a little attitude. That's the thing that drives me up a wall.
Did you give him attitude?
No, sir.
I believe you actually right now.
I'm the nicest person. Oh, you want to know a pet peeve of mine?
What is it?
When I'm nice to somebody.
And they're mean back.
Oh, yeah. And then I try to be like, hey, man, like, come on, I'm just trying to be respectful. And then they're overly mean. There's something in me that switches. I got to be better at that.
It's so funny. So there's this guy who I've recently become, pretty good friends with. But initially, he was always like in my orbit. He was always like around my friend group. And for the first like 3-4 years of knowing him, like he was just not nice to me. No, like he just wasn't. And I mean, like, would say, I'm not even gonna like repeat something, but he would say some like really harsh stuff. And I remember being at like one of our mutual friends' bachelor parties, and liquid courage, and like breaks down walls. And so he just like put his arm around me. He's like, hey man, like, I'm really sorry for like some of the stuff I've said. And I was like, look, dude, like you're actually like really cool and super smart. Like I'd love to be friends with you. And I remember him, like, he said something that was not at all, it's gonna seem really not that revelatory, but at the time I was like, well, you're right. And he was just like, like, we're all just doing our best. And I was like, no, hold on, wait, no, don't rub that, don't shove, no, don't just shrug that
I'm sorry, I couldn't help but laugh, but go ahead.
But I was just like, man, like, when you think about, like, whatever that person is who's like, man, they're being mean to you, and you're like, man, I'm just being nice, but they're, like, being mean back, or whenever that cop, like, whatever, I'm just like, man, you know what, like, his best may not seem that great to me, but, like, he's probably doing his best, and I don't know what's going on in his world. I don't know, like, what's making him be this way. Guys, oh, come on. I was, like, trying to have a warm and fuzzy moment with you right now.
Okay. I like the term better. Everybody has their own demons that they're fighting. Fair. Because in my mind, I'm like, that's your best?
But that's the thing, right? Like, I don't want to be judged for my worst day. Or my worst thing, right?
I guess when I say, is that your best, it's more of a motivational thing. Like, hey, I know you can do better. Does that make sense? Because I believe in you.
Yeah.
No?
Maybe they're not there yet.
Yeah. Well, I love how we're not agreeing on this. I don't know, man. I think people could always do better in the moment.
Yeah, absolutely. Don't get me wrong. I am a huge perfectionist. I've sacrificed excellent work in the name of perfection, which is a pipe dream. But I think when it comes to humanity, I don't know. I try to lean into the idea of
You're so much better than
grace. I don't know.
No, you are. You have the right mindset. You sincerely do. It's like the perfect Buddhist mindset. You're like, what story you remind me of?
What?
The monk, I think I've told it before on the show, I'm not sure, but it's a monk who is super pious. He's walking through the forest, and this man comes up to him, super angry, starts yelling at him, hurling the most vicious insults you could possibly imagine, and the pious monk is just smiling. The man gets even angrier, and he starts yelling even more, saying even more derogatory things to him, and the monk is just smiling. Finally, the man gets so angry, he walks away. Another man who saw all this goes up to the monk. He's like, "Are you okay? Like, oh my gosh, how did you not even react to that? How?" And the monk says, "If somebody offers you a gift and you don't accept it, who does that gift belong to?" And so you are this monk. No? Yes.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah, I received that. Thank you.
I'm glad you received my gift, sir.
I do. I take it. I received it. Thank you.
Speaking of gifts received and education, because the Thirst Project does have a huge impact on people around the world, making sure they get an education, especially younger people. I'm sure it's also having an effect on older people.
Yeah.
Maybe possibly having an opportunity to get an education, correct?
Or more commonly you see like adult women being able to get jobs because of not spending hours walking to fetch water or things like that.
Yeah, that's incredible. I don't know much about this current event, but the whole scandal of, I hate calling it a scandal. I don't know if it is a scandal. It is a scandal. The college admissions thing. Have you heard about this?
Just a little bit, yeah.
I've just heard a little bit too.
Yeah.
Michael seems to know all the details. He's involved in it. He's actually subpoenaed. No, I'm kidding. No, he's not. He's not involved in it. No.
I want to know more.
It's not surprising to me that rich people paid an exorbitant amount of money in an unfair way to get into college. If that's what this is basically is, right, Michael?
What they did was they essentially paid someone to get them like through a side door, because like there are people that pay, like Jared Kushner, his dad paid $2.5 million whatever to buy a building or something to get him into college. Like that's technically legal, actually. But what these parents did was, and that's what the guy said, is it's more like a side door.
Right.
Side door.
Well, and I think the dishonest part, like there's almost at least a level of honesty and like, yeah, like I paid $2.5 million and they accepted my kid, but it's like, I think the idea with this is like, from what little I know, I paid this other person who proctored this exam, and they switched the
SAT and ACT scores.
Or I paid this athletic director. I made a donation to the athletic program, and they said that my student was actually a much better athlete than they really were. So there's like a degree of dishonesty attached to it versus
Gotcha.
not that there's like purity and like buying your way in, but it's like, well, at least Jared Kushner's dad, like, I bought this building and they took my kid, like it is what it is. Whereas this, they're like, no, my kid's a really amazing athlete.
So
my kid's a much better scholar than she really is.
Gotcha.
So in one instance, they sent like the parents like an email that included the daughter's high school transcripts, her fraudulent SAT score, and a fabricated athletic photo, athletic profile that falsely identified her as a 3-year varsity letter winner in water polo and team MVP in 2017. And they included a photo which is of another person
with like her face photoshopped on.
That's a con artist. That's like conning people. Wow. Okay. Well, that's wrong, and they're rightfully so in a lot of trouble. Because what I thought initially this whole thing was like, oh no, rich people like donated to a college, and they got in trouble. And I was like, well, I mean, I guess that's. I mean, it's not great, but I get it. They're giving money to the school, like a ridiculous amount, like what you said, like millions of dollars. It's like, yeah, we're gonna accept your kid. Of course, you gave the school millions of dollars. But I don't know. That's okay. Well, then they're in trouble.
Do you
Yep.
remember did you guys the Simpsons episode where Mr. Burns tries to get his son into Yale and he's like, "So, it's my yearly donation. How much I should give?" And then the Yale people are like, "Well, someone with your son's test scores, it would need an international airport." And they're like,
God.
"Well, Yale could use an international airport."
Oh my God.
Wow. Yeah. Seth, you obviously spend a lot of time with the Thirst Project. I think a good amount of your time is spent there, correct? What else do you do, man? I mean, I know you who is the man behind the Thirst Project?
I take long walks on the beach. No, I don't know. I love traveling. I mean, I travel a lot for work, but especially recently, I've tried to get better about like building in. So if we're gonna go to Uganda or Eswatini or India or something, I'll try to build like an extra 3 to 5 days in now, just so I'm like, hey, I'm here. I want to like see some stuff for myself. But besides travel, like I love scuba diving.
Really?
So, oh man, like I love diving.
You certified?
Yeah.
Oh, that's crazy.
I'm just like, just do it. No, yeah.
Could you imagine?
Like it's
That's
not
really
that
dangerous.
safe. No. Like I love diving, and I also really love sharks.
Dude, crazy diving story on the Joe Rogan podcast with Cowboy Cerrone because he does cave diving.
Oh yeah, I'm not there.
Super dangerous.
Yeah.
The story about how he almost died. You guys got to listen to this. Just that story of it. I mean, it's the most. Oh, dude. So have you had a scary encounter diving yet?
No.
Oh,
no,
thank
no,
God.
no, thankfully
Thank
not.
God.
I mean,
Yeah.
I've only logged like 35 dives or so. So I mean, I'm not like
Yeah.
crazy, expert or anything like that. But honestly, like what drew me to diving is like I love sharks. Like I love sharks.
That's right. I know this about
And
you.
so I've been cage diving with great whites 7 times now. I've been cage diving with Galapagos sharks once, and then I've been diving without a cage with lemon sharks, tiger sharks, and reef sharks. So a couple years ago, CNN and HLN basically had this TV show that was like an activism-based news show called Aspirist, which is a terrible name, and I could say that now because we're canceled. But anyways, we had this like activism-based news show, and so we got 2 seasons, which was crazy. And they hired like, rather than hiring, no offense, like actors or like personalities or talking heads, they're like, we want real activists who are like doing real stuff to like anchor this show. So I got to like go interview and meet the craziest and like most awesome people doing insane stuff. Like we interviewed this woman who, she was living in Idaho in a super like rural conservative town, and yet in the midst of this like very religious town, she had from her church launched this environmental organization. And it's like, if you talk to them about any other policy issue, like you would not in any way, shape, or form think these people were like remotely liberal, but on this one thing, they're like, we need to like stop coal, like all this stuff. And you're like, how did she do this? And she's like, look, if there's any group of people who should be protecting the planet, if I really truly believe that the God of the universe has entrusted us with creation to steward, like it should be religious people who are like environmentalists. And that's like, she's like got this group of people who've bought into it. Anyways, all that to say, we did this new show, and so for our second season, I was like, I don't know if we're gonna get another season, and so I was like much bolder, and I was like, we have to do a shark conservation episode. Like I'm your guy. Like I'll go diving without a cage. Like put me in. And so they're like, all right. So we got to go to the Bahamas and like dive with tiger sharks, and like it was amazing.
Wow.
I mean, yeah, I've literally that was probably the most like one of my top 3 life experiences ever. But I mean, we were for days just shooting with 15-foot tiger sharks and
Jeez.
8 to 10-foot lemon sharks and reef sharks and 14, 15, 16 around you at all times. It was crazy.
That's dangerous, right? No? Tiger sharks?
So he, I think like danger is subjective. No, I think I sit in the intersection of having an incredibly real, aware, healthy respect for the capacity for injury with one of these animals. However, I think the whole point, well, I don't think, I know, like the whole point of that episode was I was like, guys, like the hippy dippy part of me, I was like we don't protect what we don't love, and we don't love what we don't understand. And there's like such misconception around sharks. I mean, we kill over 100 million sharks a year. The number of people who die from shark and I hate the word attack, but predations per year is less than 10.
Yeah, it's not a lot.
And even the number of attacks is less than 100 per year out of billions of people, or
Right.
at least hundreds of millions that use the water every year, right? And so your likelihood of getting bitten by a shark is incredibly slim, and also the interest level of a shark in a human as a food source is next to none. There are over 300 different species of sharks, and there are only really 2 that I would be like remotely hesitant to share the water with because they will like actively predate on people.
I love these stats that you know
Like
about
most
sharks,
of the
by the way.
time you hear a shark quote unquote attack, it's not that they like come back for more and keep eating the person. It's like, oh, like they took a bite and they're like, oh, that's gross, I don't want that. And it's just mistaken identity, right? You're in an area where it's low visibility, maybe less than 10 feet of visibility. The water's really murky. It's there's a lot of churn, or it's like it's dusk, or certain situations where it's an estuary, fresh water's meeting salt water. It's where they're predating, and you're in that space and you didn't know it. So it's like if you are aware of those situations, you put yourself in an environment where there are lots of sharks, right? We chummed the water. We literally like drew the sharks in, and even then, to see for days being in the water, sharing the space with these incredible animals that are absolutely apex predators who, if you were to behave like prey, or if you were to behave inappropriately, sure, something could go wrong, but otherwise, to see them sharing the space with you as another predator in that space is just like pretty incredible.
Wow. That's okay. I mean, that's a lot of. You sound like you've done your research, so
A little bit.
you've actually kind of won me over. That I'm not too
So we're-
scared about shark attacks now.
We're gonna go shark diving.
I wouldn't mind. I seriously wouldn't mind. I want to do here's the thing though, great whites.
Well, yeah, I'll go cage diving. So here's,
Okay.
I think like, in life, it's not even so much, again, that great whites are interested in eating people, but the problem with a white shark, if there was to be an accidental predation, is that they're so big, that one bite, even if they don't come back to eat you, is like, oh, well, that's my leg, and you bleed out is the issue.
Well, yeah, I meant like in the cage. Like
Okay, I thought you're like, I want to go. I was like, well, let's like like baby steps.
The only one I wouldn't want to be in a cage with is the whale shark. I
Oh,
just want to
yeah,
grab
yeah.
its fin
Don't
be like, I'm Aquaman. No?
Don't touch the whale shark.
Oh, I can't? Is that bad, or is it
Yeah, don't. You're in their environment. Don't go touching.
in a respectful way? No.
A little. It's funny
okay,
because
all right.
funny enough, I would
Yeah.
actually give the opposite advice if you were in the water with like a tiger shark, or if you were in the shark,
Oh,
like
yeah.
a lemon shark, right? Because those types of sharks are very social. If you watch their behavior, you'll see them swimming over top of each other. They're constantly.
Oh, I see
they're
what you're saying.
Bumping into each other, and so as a means of just as you're gonna get approached,
Yeah.
like you have to almost redirect as a shark comes in, and you kind of put your hand on top of their snout and push them into the.
Yeah, Michael, is there any way we can pull up a whale shark photo?
Sure.
Like comparison size? Because I just love how big they are.
Yeah, they're beautiful.
I mean, what is it? They're not bigger than a blue whale, right? No, blue whale's bigger. I don't know.
I think blue whale's bigger.
Blue whale's bigger. Oh, that's still pretty big, man.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Why is it a hockey player? That's so random. Their comparison size for the people listening
That's a good one.
was a hockey player. Now we've got a real scuba man. Okay, yeah, that's pretty big. Goodness.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Oh, blue whale's huge.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's incredible, man. What was I was going to ask you something before your shark interests. You had another interest, I think.
I travel. I don't know.
Well, I can't remember. If people want to get involved
Yeah.
with the Thirst Project,
Yeah.
first of all, they can go to the website, which is thirstproject.org.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. Go to thirstproject.org. There's a place you can donate. There's a place you can get information about how to bring us to your school, how to volunteer. Also, if you just text the keyword thirst to 97779, so 97779, it's not gonna like trigger an automatic donation or anything, but what it will do is it will give you a response that says, hey, someone from our team will reach out and say, hey, thank you so much for your interest. Here's a menu of stuff you can pick from if you want to, like I said, bring us to your school, get involved, volunteer, donate, etc.
I think everybody listening to this show, at the very least, the next time, a bottle of water, how much that costs? Why don't you put that towards the thirst project at least, if money's tight? If you're doing good in life, hopefully you are. A little bit more goes a long way, helping somebody across the world who would give anything to have a quarter of the stuff that you have today. And there's a saying that I love, and I try to apply this every day: plant trees you'll never see the shade of. And I think that's so important, and it's so important for the human psyche to be part of something, to be of service to your community in a way that really triggers something inside you.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. No, I love that. We drink deeply from wells of freedom that we didn't dig. We sit in the shade of trees that we didn't plant.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, man, this is a question I actually wanted to ask you before we wrap up. There's a saying also I saw that says, hard times create strong men create good times create soft men create bad times. I'm paralleling that to the fact that, since a lot of people have clean water and it comes out of the tap, they don't even have to worry about it, they can buy it anywhere, it's hard to have that deep appreciation for it. So how do you think after, I hope that we get clean water to everybody, who needs it in the world, how do you think we kind of stop that kind of cycle to keep that appreciation going for people whenever, the stress of it not being there isn't there anymore? What do you think?
I mean, I think if you look at your own life, right, like you've never gone without safe water, really, right?
Yeah.
And so you look at would you say you've had an easy life?
Compared to other people.
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's take that out of it. Say you never were made aware of the water crisis, never made aware. Generally speaking, right? We're all the hero of our own stories, right? Like we all look at our own struggles and think like, oh man, this is. My jaywalking ticket was like really, that was the thing, like that was challenging that day or whatever it is, right?
Yeah,
If you're
it was the worst thing about it.
you
Yeah.
lose your job, you are struggling
Right.
to pay your bills or your house or whatever it is, right? Like everyone has struggles, right now, and I'm never one to like sit in a position to say like, oh, your struggles are more important or less important, but I think it's that idea of like A, trying to maintain perspective, and also B, like, to bring it full circle, if we all just realize that we're all just doing our best. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
But you know what I mean, brother? Like, it's hard for a lot of people to have that deep empathy.
Yeah.
For me as an actor, I know how to like put myself in somebody else's shoes to a certain extent, of course, to really dig deep and understand why they're feeling the way they're feeling, why they make the choices they make, their circumstances, how those affect them in their life. And you have this natural ability to do that as well. But for people who don't, how do you kind of make, shake them into that, you think?
I mean, that's literally 90% of our job is we always talk about it, our work, like we're trying to figure out how to bridge the empathy gap. How do we get people from one circumstance who have never experienced something even remotely close to what the people we're serving have? Like, how do we get them to see it and understand it and feel it? And like, there's no one answer to that, right? Like everybody responds differently. Like psychologically, there are people who give or donate or get involved with us who like, they don't want to see photos from the field. They're not moved by like, what most people are like, oh my gosh, like I saw this powerful image of a kid walking and sweating and hauling water. And then I see clean water pumping out of this pump and seeing the impact of that. Like that moves me. But there's also a subset of the population who's like, I don't care about the pretty pictures. I want to see your financials. I want to know the numbers. I want to know this. And it's like there are all kinds of different people who different things motivate them to get involved for different reasons. And so for us, like, we just have to constantly try to find new ways, whether it's like what you said earlier, like, oh man, that VR experience was really cool. Like that put me in that space. Or, oh wow, the gala created this unique experience, or our school tour. Like, all these programs we do are literally designed to like disrupt someone's day, whether it's disrupting their school day on our school tour and getting them to sit and learn about this, whether it's disrupting their night when they come and they put on goggles at a gala and they get to see what it's like there, or, So I mean, I don't have one answer as to like how do you get people to be empathetic. I think for us, we try a number of different tactics all the time, and some things stick and some things don't. But I think it's less about necessarily how and more that you keep trying, right? Sort of that like cliche Nike, like you fall down 12 times, get up 13. Right?
Yeah. I dig
keep
that,
going.
man.
Yeah.
Man, Seth. Dude, I love you. Seriously,
too,
man.
buddy.
The things you're doing in life, very inspirational, and I appreciate you for everything and your team and everything the Thirst Project does. You are welcome back anytime. So whenever you guys have your next thing, come on over and welcome.
Thank you.
Let's talk about it.
Thank you so much.
And again, Thirst Project on Instagram, Twitter.
Yeah,
they can go
just
to the
at Thirst
website.
Project. Yeah, and I mean, if you want to donate $2.5 million, I won't give you a building, but we'll take your kid for a while. Like,
We'll take your make him build the well. And you're at Seth Maxwell 1.
Yeah.
The number 1. Cool. Awesome, guys. Thank you so much to our listeners, our new listeners, new subscribers to the show. We appreciate you guys tremendously. Thanks for your reviews and for liking everything and for being engaged with us. We really appreciate you guys. Thank you, Michael. Thank you, Peyton. Thank you, Steph, social media producer. Thank you to Adobe Radio, Nice Guy Digital. Thank you to the lovely human beings out there. I'm trying to think who else. Thank you to you know what? Thank you to the cop who gave me the jaywalking ticket.
he's just doing his best.
All right. Always remember to listen, think, and then talk.